Hello everyone, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And in the world of comics, it's not uncommon to take two awesome ideas and try to combine them. It's something that every other entertainment medium tries to do at some point, and understandably so. It just seems so intuitive on paper. If two great things are combined, then that'll just make something twice as great, right? But unfortunately, the math rarely adds up. Just because two ideas are great on their own doesn't mean they'll work together. That's how we end up with subpar crossovers, bad gimmicks, and knockoffs so blatant that they might as well be unlicensed parodies. It really doesn't matter how great the ideas are, they still have to be written well and integrated together in a meaningful way. But that's exactly what Marvel managed to do with X-Men 92, House of 92, a 5-issue miniseries from 2022 that combined two amazing ideas. Take the setting, aesthetics, and tone of the iconic 90s X-Men cartoon, and combine it with the groundbreaking world building of Jonathan Hickman's House of X Powers of 10. Both of these concepts are beloved manifestations of the X-Men mythos. They may come from different eras, but they've both cemented themselves with fans as the X-Men at their very best. However, combining them in a way that works, capturing everything that makes each iconic in their own right, that seems like a tall order. But a creative team that includes Steve Fox, Salva Espin, and Israel Silva managed to deliver. The art, style, and presentation of House of 92 really feels ripped from an episode of the old 90s cartoon. Cyclops, Jean, Rogue, Storm, Gambit, and Beast all have that iconic look from that special 90s era. Their dialogue and mannerisms even match, right down to Beast quoting Hemingway. And if you're familiar with the voice acting from that cartoon, you might even hear the likes of Cal Dodd, Norm Spencer, and Lenore Zahn in the dialogue. And as someone who grew up with the 90s X-Men cartoon, trust me, that does improve the experience. But what makes House of 92 really work is the nature of the story. In many respects, it's a much more streamlined version of House of X Powers of 10. To some, that might seem like a negative, losing the larger complexities surrounding that story. But it works here because that simpler approach allows it to integrate perfectly within the 90s X-Men style. It doesn't try too hard to make one era mesh with another. It just takes what works so well within both and builds on it. From the beginning, it follows many of the same beats as House of X Powers of 10. It has the main X-Men team on a mission into space, tasked with destroying an orbital station shaped like the head of the Master Mold Sentinel. Boulevard Trask may have renounced his creations in the show, but in this story, he's reverted to old habits, albeit now without reasons. While those reasons are only hinted at, the outcome of the mission helps further the convergence of these two iconic eras and ideas. The team does succeed in destroying the Sentinel base, but at the same time, the Earth of this world is adapting to the emergence of Krakoa, a new mutant nation that seeks recognition in the international community. Its approach is largely identical to what Jonathan Hickman established. Through the living mutant island, they have teleportation gates, medicines, and a united population rallying to this new homeland. That includes allies and enemies alike. It even utilizes a new form of the resurrection protocols, albeit with a different version of the 5. Yes, the process is a bit more friendly and involves less nudity, but it has the same effect. Mutants have their own nation, they've beaten death, and they're becoming more powerful and influential on the global stage. For some, that's reason to celebrate. For others, like Henry Peter Guyrick, Graydon Creed, Cameron Hodge, Lady Deathstrike, and Donald Pierce, it's reason to be even more concerned. So much so that they unite in opposition. They don't call themselves Orcus, but they have what they call the Orcus Protocols. And their agenda is largely the same. Destroy mutants before they destroy humanity. These are all remarkably similar to the plot points of House of X Powers of 10. Initially, there's nothing all that innovative aside from a more streamlined story. But House of 92 quickly finds a way to set itself apart, and fittingly enough, it does so through Jubilee. If this series has one key character around which the story revolves, it's her. She was the one who guided us into the X-Men's world in the 90s X-Men cartoon. Now she's the driving force into this unique world. And she does this by playing the same role that Moira McTaggart played in the comics. It's revealed in the second issue that she's actually the reason Krakoa was established. Because it turns out that, on top of her trademark firework powers, she also has the ability to resurrect every time she dies. In her first life, she never even met the X-Men. She was just a kid hanging out at an arcade, just like she was in the first episode of the show. Then a Sentinel storms in, blasts her, and that's the end of it. But like Moira, she suddenly finds herself reborn in another life, complete with all the knowledge of her previous lives. And from there, she tries again and again to avoid such a fate. In one life, she tries avoiding malls altogether, but that didn't work. In another, she tried meeting the X-Men sooner. That also didn't work. In another, she tried taking out the creators of the Sentinels, referencing 90s Linda Hamilton no less. That didn't work either, although it was badass. She even tried teaming up with the X-Men's enemies, and that still didn't work. And by her 9th life, as she's facing down an army of Nimrod Sentinels, she comes to one inescapable conclusion. The Sentinels always win. So with her 10th and likely final life, she tries to make it count. She works directly with Magneto and Xavier to create Krakoa, unite mutants all over the world, and prepare for the coming Sentinel threat. Unfortunately, doing so meant pretending to sacrifice herself, making all her friends think she died at the hands of a Sentinel attack. This hits some a lot harder than others, especially Wolverine. The 90s cartoon spent 5 seasons establishing their bond, and while others mourn her loss, Wolverine refuses to let it go. And this makes things very complicated down the line, as well as dramatic. And while Wolverine seeks the truth, other major plots from the Krakoa era in the mainline comics play out, including the big X of Swords crossover, as well as the Hellfire Gala, which is renamed the Inner Circle Gala to maintain a kid-friendly rating. These are all huge events, but somehow House of 92 managed to tell these stories in just a few issues. They even managed to directly reference some characters and events from the show, further complementing the best aspects of these ideas. Along the way, there are plenty of callbacks and Easter eggs that fans of both stories will recognize. There are even a few references to some popular memes, and trust me, you'll know them when you see them. But within these two familiar narratives, there is an overarching plot. There's also a definitive beginning, middle, and end, which ensures the scope of the story remains more defined. Now, I won't spoil how that end plays out, I'll just say that it's nowhere near as messy as Fall of X. And it also includes some iconic 90s references that just make it work even better. Now, if House of 92 has one major flaw, it's that it's just too dang short. Streamlined or not, a 5-issue miniseries is not nearly enough to fully realize its potential. Even before the final issue, it feels like there could have been at least a dozen issues fleshing out this unique world, born of 90s era X-Men and the House of X Powers of 10 comics. But despite the brevity, House of 92 still manages to work beautifully and without ever coming off as a shallow gimmick. It's a unique but concise X-Men story, capturing the breadth of what makes House of X and the 90s animated series so great, and all within just a handful of comics. Alone, these errors were special for so many X-Men fans, but together, they create a truly special gem of a comic, and I'm happy to include it as one of my favorite entries in Jack's Comic Gems. But don't just take my word for it, see for yourself. As always, I've left an Amazon Comixology link in the description. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more of my comic book gems. Until next time, take care and stay safe.